Hello everyone, my name is Nisha Pillai, and I hope we'll be great friends by the end of the next hour. Let me introduce you to Tony Fernandes. Does he need an introduction?
Hello everyone.
I don't think so, huh? Make yourself comfortable, Tony. I think that's your seat. But if you want to walk around the hall, feel free.
No, I'm fine.
What should I say about Tony, ladies and gentlemen? He's the boss of AirAsia. We all know that. He's a TV star. I have to learn from you as a presenter of The Apprentice. He owns a football club. Is that a wise move or not? I think we can quiz him on that. A vanity project, or is there a business application? Ladies and gentlemen, this face-to-face is not between me, Nisha, and Tan Sri Tony Fernandes. It's between everyone in this room and Tony Fernandes. So I want to give you the opportunity to think of the questions you would like to put to Tony. Here's how I propose to do it, and he's agreed, by the way. I'd like to carve out the next hour into little sections, starting off with how do you get a business off the ground, a mad, audacious business proposition off the ground. I'll ask him a few questions around it, and then I'd like to ask you to put questions to him. And then we'll move on to something else. How does that sound? Sounds like a good idea? At the back of the hall? Are you going to take part? Great, because I have a mic and I'll come running to you if you don't. So let's get started, Tony.
Okay.
How did you get started? 2001. Airline industry looked pretty awful.
Yeah. You know, there's a very fine line between brilliance and stupidity. It's very, very narrow. Now, I was in the music business. I've been there for a good part of 15 years. And I got tired of piracy. I'm sure no one in the World Islamic Forum has ever bought anything pirated in their lives, because they're all very respectable global citizens. But I got tired of it. And I was working in Time Warner. I started at Warner Communications, it became Time Warner, CNN came in between, and then we did AOL Time Warner. And that was one merger too many for me. And I remember sitting in Rockefeller Plaza, and the owner of AOL was giving his vision for the world. And I thought, wow, please give me some of the drugs you are taking. And they were coming up with terms like EBITDA, earnings before everything you don't like. And so I thought, no, I'm not going to be part of this anymore. So I just went up to my boss and I said I quit. He was thrilled because he always wanted to get rid of me, but he thought I was after his job, which I was, and paid me. And then I flew back from New York to London, not knowing what I was going to do. And then I saw Stelios of EasyJet on television. I was sitting in a bar in Hampstead, actually.
So just pure luck.
Pure luck. I always liked planes. I always liked the idea of an airline. I saw Stelios talking about EasyJet and criticizing British Airways and, you know, state-owned airlines. And I thought, oh, this sounds interesting. So I went down to Luton Airport, and I saw people flying to Barcelona for £8, to Paris for £6. Everything was orange.
So you had no plan to go to Luton Airport
No.
until you happened to see Stelios
Correct.
on the box? Okay.
And then I came back the next day and I filmed everything. I bought a handy cam and I filmed everything. I thought, well, since everyone had stolen my music for the last 15 years, I'll steal this airline concept. And that was it. Cut a long story short, we bought an airline called AirAsia from a big Malaysian conglomerate. We signed it on September the 8th, 2001. 3 days later, 9/11 happened. So welcome to the aviation world. But
so was that entirely a disaster for you in the aviation world?
no, it wasn't.
Or was that a kind of silver lining to
It was
to
a silver
9/11
lining
by some
because
strange happenstance?
It was a silver lining because the price of planes just collapsed, and we could afford a better plane than what we originally had hoped. And we just grown from there. 11 years ago.
So that's another kind of weird luck then?
Yep. Yeah, you need luck, without a doubt. You need luck. We started this airline with 2 planes and 200,000 passengers. 12 years on now, we have 150 planes, and we carry 44 million people a year. So it's been an amazing kind of story, but really buoyed by the fact we're in a fantastic part of the world.
But you turned around AirAsia, which was in a pretty dire condition when you bought it. You turned it around very quickly, within a year or two. Did you always know that you would be able to do that?
No.
Did you have a
No.
kind of great business plan?
No, you know, I tell a lot of young people that, well, the business plan was very simple. And going back to your first point about business, I knew people wanted to fly cheaply. And if you want to start a business, you've got to create a product that people want. That seemed obvious. If I can half the price of traveling, everyone wants to fly, everyone wants to travel, it seemed a no-brainer. After that, it was just a lot of hard work, perseverance. It is a tough industry, the airline industry. We've been through everything. SARS, bird flu, tsunami, state-owned airlines, governments that didn't want us, you name it, we've had it. High oil, low oil, credit crisis. But for all people who are looking at starting a business, there's always a silver lining. If you think of SARS, no one wanted to fly during SARS. They all thought they were going to die. And I said to my guys, this is the best time to go build a brand. Triple your advertising now. And they looked at me and said, God, are you crazy? No one wants to fly. I said, no one else is flying. So, you know, go spend more money. We'll be the only airline advertising. Plus, I knew Malaysians very well. If you put a fare low enough, they will risk their lives. Okay? 800 ringgit to Kota Kinabalu, no, I'm going to die from SARS. 80 ringgit, who cares? And Tun Musa was the first person to buy that ticket. So there's always a silver lining, and there's always issues. But for anyone starting out a business, it's damn tough.
So what would you say to people over here who might have some audacious idea lurking at the back of their brain, and they're just waiting to unleash it, get the nerve up to do it? What would your advice be?
Well, the first thing is to do it. Don't ask for advice, because everyone will tell you not to do it. And I always tell people, you only have one life. You don't want to sit there at 55 and say, I wish I did it. It's too late then. You've got to do it. If you fail, you fail. At least you can say, I tried. And so my advice to anyone is, if you have an idea, you want to do it, try. Because you can't rewind your life.
Overcome your fear of failure.
Yeah.
Okay. Who'd like to ask a question to Tony Fernandes? Tony, by the way, I can't see the whites of your eyes, so could I very kindly ask you to take the AirAsia beautiful branded cap off? God. So that right at the back of the hall we can see your eyes.
Now, we're media sluts.
Thank you very much. Okay, who'd like to ask a question to Tony Fernandes about getting businesses off the ground, actually making a dream into reality? Who can I tempt into taking this mic off me? Yes, someone here? Go for it.
All right, Tony, I'm a Malaysian.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, hello.
And you're my friend. Thank you.
Of course. All right, good. My question to you is that AirAsia is a metaphor, all right?
Is what?
A metaphor.
A metaphor in business branding. How do you come to with the idea? That's all. Because the two words and the rest catch it up. Because you went for a continent. So there is a great imagination. But what does it take to think that way? Thank you.
Wow, very philosophical question. Go for it.
First of all, you've got to be Malaysian. Because we breed them hard. we make us think harder. Lee Kuan Yew asked me that question. He said, how come there's no Tony Fernandes in Singapore? I said, because I'm Malaysian. And he didn't know really how to answer me back after that. I think that's a tough question to ask, but maybe my upbringing, maybe I love a challenge, and we've always liked to do things that help people. And flying was really just for the rich. 6% of Malaysians flew, 2% of Indonesians flew, and about 3% of Thais flew. But now, since AirAsia, everyone flies. And we go to places that no one dreamt you could go to. 50% of our destinations are new destinations. We fly to Bandung. No one flew to Bandung before AirAsia. there was no big research. I used to record dangdut music there. I was the dangdut king. I used to see Tun Musa at the dangdut clubs often. And, now we have 32 flights a day to Bandung. So I think if I twist it around a little bit, what we've done at AirAsia is, you know, people talk about innovation. People talk about having innovative companies. You've got to create an environment for innovation. At AirAsia, we don't have any offices. We dress down. I dressed up today. Generally, I look a lot worse than this. But the reason is so that people don't feel a distance between you. If my staff look better than me, they have no problems asking me questions. It causes me problems in Malaysian airports because they think I'm an illegal immigrant. But, you know, we want to create an environment. We want to create an environment that people are not afraid of taking chances and creating failure. So.
And you think the way you dress can change that?
Oh, 100%. 100%. If you're wearing a suit, I'd rather have 10,000 brains working for me than just 10. Many Asian companies, it's the leadership that decides everything and the rest are implementers. At AirAsia, we have anyone can come up with an idea. Anyone can come up to me with a suggestion. Everyone has my mobile phone number. We don't have offices.
So can I ask you this question? What's the last idea that came from the shop floor or from some unexpected source that you embraced and turned into something that's made a difference at AirAsia?
One of the guys who were carrying bags for us said we should have a certain type of food on the plane.
Certain type of food?
A certain type of noodle. I wouldn't go into the specific. And I thought, yes, that's a great idea. And I just saw today they launched it. And we're famous for some of our food because we keep things simple and it's what people want as opposed to food that's being cooked by some French chef somewhere in the world. And you know, I think it's going to be a big hit. And he came up to me and said, we should be serving mee mama on the plane. And I thought it was a great idea. And he's launching it, actually. It's his idea. So there's a big billboard that's being painted now with him. His name is Kamal, eating this mee mama. And it was just off a conversation from me. I'll give you another idea.
So that's a tip for the audience then, is it? Try and get your whole staff to be 100%. Part of the business.
Your biggest asset are the people in your company. I know it's a well-used term, but really, I think at AirAsia, we're really very good at it, at getting the best out of people. I'll tell you another story. Once a month, in the old days, I don't do it that often, I used to carry bags. I was a cabin crew once every 2 months. I used to carry bags every month, and I'd check in once every 3 months, because checking in is the hardest job in AirAsia. I did it for 2 reasons. I don't think you can be an effective leader unless you're prepared to go down on the ground and know exactly what's going on. Plus, I knew that if we wanted to go from 2 planes to 100 planes, we needed talent. And I was going to be unconventional in how I looked for that talent. You didn't have to go to Oxford or Cambridge or Harvard or anything. There are a lot of very smart people in Malaysia and Southeast Asia who just didn't have money for further education. So I remember when I was carrying bags, I'll give you 2 stories. We went from 737 to an Airbus. Now, an Airbus is slightly a few inches higher off the ground than a 737. And we used to throw the bags in, actually not throw the bags in, lovingly put the bags in. Kiss the bag, nice bag, we like you bag. And, you know, when we came to the Airbus, my guy said, we can't do it, we need belt loaders. And I said, no, we can't use belt loaders. So they put me on
too expensive.
Too expensive. So they put me on the flights to East Malaysia and Kota Baru on the East Coast. Now, people who fly with us generally bring their house with them. People who go to Kota Baru bring their neighbor's house as well. So there's a lot of bags. And I almost broke my back in the process. And I went, wrong, you're right, we'll go buy belt loaders tomorrow. If I didn't, we would have had a union, I'm sure. And up to now, in 12 years, we have 10,000 staff. We have no unions. Second reason was
and that's a good thing?
I think it's a great thing because there's a lot of trust between us all. It's one fighting force, it's one family. There's no mistrust, we're very transparent, and I think it works.
So can I ask you a question about, we're talking about culture. This isn't the norm, is it, in Asia?
I don't think
having such a democratic kind of organization, getting people who don't have the same kind of education, come from the same background, being able to talk to the boss,
let me finish. And I tell you this, when I was carrying bags, I was in Cebu, in East Malaysia, and there was the boy carrying bags with me was super smart. And I said, hey, why don't you apply for the cadet pilot program? And he said, oh, I left school at 13. I said, doesn't matter. You're really smart. Apply for it. And some of my pilots helped him to take the exam. Of our first 18 cadets, 11 came from within the company. They were baggage handlers, or cabin crew, or check-in assistants, or store boys. And 11 of them got in. And the boy from Cebu who carried bags and left school at 13 had the highest marks ever in Malaysian Flying Academy. And just 3 weeks ago, he became a captain. So you imagine you join to carry bags. 7 years later, you're captain of a brand new Airbus. That's how we are really good at developing people.
Wow.
Do you know, there were no female pilots. I know that a thrust of this convention is about women. There were no female pilots in Malaysia. And I said to my chief pilot, I said, why are there no female pilots? And he came up with the most ridiculous answer I've ever heard in my life, which can never be repeated. And I said, if a woman can run a country, she can certainly fly a plane. And we now have 42 female pilots.
Oh,
and
wow.
the other day was history for me. Captain,
42 out of?
Out of about 800.
Okay. 5%.
5%. You've got to start somewhere. But let me finish. The other day, captain was female, co-pilot was female, all the cabin crew were female, and all the passengers were male. No, that last bit's not true.
I thought you were going to say, and all the cabin crew were male.
No.
So let's get the audience to ask you about culture. How transferable is this unusually democratic business culture? Tell us who you are, sir.
Hi, Tony. This is Riyadh from Bangladesh.
Hi, Riyadh.
Yeah, I've been in touch with Jason Lowe, Twin Talk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is very interesting. And we are starting giving SIM cards free, Twin Talk, from Bangladesh, not by AirAsia, through Biman or Regent. Now Bangladesh having 6 flights from Dhaka to Malaysia. But why you are not starting AirAsia? I saw it started,
Yeah.
but again stopped.
I can't really tell you in front of all this audience.
Okay, then I will, because...
We had a really tough time in Bangladesh. Maybe you can help me.
Yeah, Dr. Ram Nair is a friend of mine. And
Yeah? Well, good. After this, I'm ready to go to Dhaka.
Okay, thank you
If you
very
can sort
much.
out the government.
As we are already in touch with
We'll be in Dhaka.
Okay, thank you very much, please.
You know what they say about conferences and networking? Well, you're seeing it happening in front of your eyes. Can we have another question about this, the question of culture? No? Please, tell us who you are.
So Tony, hi, Edward Clayton from Booz in Malaysia.
Hey, Edward.
Question, when you have 2 aircraft, it's maybe not too difficult to do what you did. When you've got 120, how do you keep that culture going with such a huge organization?
That's a fantastic question. We started with 200 staff, and I knew every single name. I would say still, with 10,000 staff, I know about 70% of my staff. 50% of my time is spent walking around, video calls. We have a town hall session every month. I think that the question is, to go back to your question, is keeping things simple, not letting the ego get in between and thinking you're more important than you are and the organization is bigger. And my big task is always cutting down bureaucracy, keeping things simple. And, I don't know everyone as intimately as I did with the 2 planes, but we still are a family-led organization. We still keep things simple. Most people have my mobile phone number, and I get emails every day from the staff. So it can be done. It's a lot harder. let's not run away from it because we've got much complicated. We have an airline in Thailand, we have an airline in Indonesia, and Philippines.
Tony,
But
let's have
can
another
be done.
question.
I enjoyed your comments. You remind me a little bit about Herb Keller and how he took on the big guys and in a sense was very successful. So I think there must be some good things about people like you and Herb Keller that can do it another way, not the traditional way, and still I think give people a joy to come to work.
Thank you.
And I think there's a gentleman here who'd like to make a point. Sorry. I'm inviting you to come to me. So sorry. Tell us who you are, please.
Yeah, it's interesting to have a forum where the owner of a company is here having essentially a meeting right on the ground. Question about your reach and extension. AirAsia, obviously, a lot of your market is in around the Middle East and Far East and so on. But is your plans in the future to extend that more towards the Atlantic side?
Yeah.
And in so doing, would there be a benefit of having essentially a hub on that side?
Yeah. We have AirAsia, which is a short-haul airline, and I used to work for Richard Branson, and we came up with the idea of AirAsia X, which is our long-haul it's AirAsia on steroids. And we've started 0 to 4 hours, we do AirAsia, and then 4 hours and above, we do AirAsia X, which is a separate company. And most definitely, we kind of have a hub and spoke. We do short-haul ventures, and then we get AirAsia X to connect to them. So there's nothing to stop us from going anywhere. And eventually,
is it more difficult, though, Tony, to move from the short-haul, low-cost culture to long-haul?
No, not at all.
Aren't expectations of travelers very different?
I don't think so, because we're not appealing to the guys who fly on full-service legacy carriers. We're appealing to people who would like to come to London, or someone from London would like to go to Southeast Asia and Malaysia, and never could afford it to. So, no, I don't think it's a major change.
So we've been talking about culture, and I want to ask you something that's been intriguing me and making me scratch my head, really, and that is, for a company that sets itself up as being different from, as you say, legacy carriers, you used the word just now, a different model, a different mindset, aiming at different customers, why on earth did you get into bed with Malaysian Airlines?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
What is the
logic?
And the culture, and the...
Do you know I talked about stupidity at the beginning? That was those were one of those mad moments of trying to make everyone happy, and it was a disaster. There was no two ways about it. But, I've had a couple of those. I went into bed with ANA in Japan.
So.
Yeah.
And that's just unwinding
but
today, I understand.
I'm sure you've had many men in your life that were a disaster. You first saw them and you thought, wow, this guy's great. And then you think he's a disaster. So life...
So what, it was the beauty that distracted you?
Not the beauty, just I made a mistake, as I'm sure you did. That, life is about experiences, and along the way you'll make some mistakes. That was a mistake.
So what do you take away from it into the future then, so that you don't make that mistake again?
Never work with another airline again.
Never work with another airline, period.
I think the cultures are too different with a legacy airline. But,
And what about moving it to other countries?
Yeah, other countries is tough, but, and that's a really good question. When we went to Thailand and Indonesia, I think it's easier for American brands to come into, or European brands. No one questioned McDonald's having to change anything, but as a Malaysian company going to Thailand, or Indonesia, or Philippines, or Japan, everyone made it more difficult for us and said, oh no, this has to be different, this has to be different.
Give me a for instance.
All kinds of things, from uniform to food to brand, but I was really stubborn. And I mean, if you fly on AirAsia, if you look at our cabin crew, if they don't open their mouths, you really won't be able to tell what airline they're from, or what country they're from. And we've been really religious. In Thailand, when I first went up there, the Thai pilots refused to go in the same bus as the cabin crew. They said it was beneath them In Malaysia, it's the other way around. The pilots refuse to go in the bus unless the cabin crew are there. And I won't tell you what the Indonesians want. So how did I solve that problem? I shipped up 20 Malaysian pilots over to Thailand to show them what the benefits of going in the same bus together. And net, we have 5 Thai-Malaysian marriages. So we're integrating ASEAN in more ways than one. But you know, you have to be really determined. We were very determined about our brand. We were very determined.
You have to make some concessions also, don't you? I mean, in Japan, for instance, they don't use credit cards so much, and the check-in procedures are different.
I think there are a little.
Eat is different. Don't you have to
there might be a little bit.
But
95% of the brand is people want to fly cheaply, whether you're in Japan, whether you're in India. That's our main message, and we have to stick to it.
India's a bit of a headache, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's one of the India. Where do I start? India is going to be a fantastic market. There are 1 billion people. For me, it's a huge advantage. It's the one place in the world where it's useful to be Indian. And
so are you perceived as Indian? Are you perceived as Indian?
Yeah, I am. Okay. And I maximize that to the full. But I think...
So you don't say, I'm a Malaysian when you go into to meet some Delhi government minister?
I adapt. I'm Tamil in the south. I'm Goan in the north. I can be any type of Indian you want me to be. So, but it's a fantastic market. And let me tell you a story. Everyone who's picked me up from the airport has never flown on an aircraft. That's an immense challenge for me. The last guy to pick me up worked in Delhi and lived in Chennai. 42 hours on the train for what is a 1.5-hour flight. And I sat with him and I said, how much would you pay to fly? And he gave me a figure. And I said, that's the figure to my team we have to meet. If we get that, wow. There's 1 billion people, 1 million a day take the train in India. It's an enormous market, but we have to do things differently. And we have to do things differently from every other airline that's operated in India. That comes with a whole list of challenges. We have to persuade the government. I've spent hours and hours with the government that flying is not just for the rich men, because they tax the airline industry because it's seen as a luxury. And so, but it takes time, and it's taken time in Malaysia, it's taken time in Thailand. But if you have the energy and the patience and the ability to upset a few people
and several lifetimes at your disposal,
then I think you can do it.
Are you optimistic then? Because
100%.
many businesses have seen the prospect of India, the promise of India, and given a huge amount of time, effort, investment, and then finally, after 5 or 10 years, thought, okay, that's it.
Well, look, proof is in the pudding. But, you know, we've done it everywhere else. There's 1 billion people in India. It's a very smart country. There's poor connectivity between a lot of it. We'll have to wait and see, but so far we feel we can do it. Time will tell.
So you see that as a sort of small setback rather than a big one?
No setback. We haven't started yet.
Okay. I don't know, it's like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen?
Well, you know, all good things take time.
Okay. But what about, for instance, flying to Europe, which you had to pull out of?
Yeah, we pulled out because we thought...
a big setback or a small setback?
No. We used... Europe was, I mean, it was a dream of mine when I was in boarding school. You know, I remember calling my mother up on using 10 pence coins and saying, can I come back for her? I'll go back a bit. And this is how London has progressed so much. I was told by my father, you're going to boarding school at 12 years old. I thought, okay, sounds interesting. And I was taken to Subang Airport, which is my most favorite airport in the world, which I'll never get to fly out of. And, you know, at those days, there was no security and all those things. I was wearing my unaccompanied miner's badge. Felt fairly cool. I was wearing my school uniform. And, you know, you could wave to everyone those days, right? There were viewing galleries, and half my village had come to see me off. I then turned up on the plane, and the coolness started to wear off. And I arrived at Heathrow Airport, and the coolness completely had gone. And it was a huge airport, even back in the 70s. And I thought, wow, it was the first time I'd seen so many white people before. I'd never seen so many, right? I told my daughter, you'll have no such problem, because when you arrive in Heathrow Airport, they're all Indians now. So you'll feel quite at home. And my father was a complete lunatic, right, who gave me £50 and said, you have to find your own way to school. And so I called a Green Line bus and ended up in Epsom. And I thought, what have I done wrong in my life? It looked like a prison camp, you know. Certainly wasn't the picture I thought it was. And I called up my mother and said, can I come back for half term? And she said, no, 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 it's too expensive, you know. And I said, one day I'll make it cheap to fly. And so it was always in my mind to start London, KL. And we did. And unfortunately, oil prices shot up. Plus, the UK government introduced a green tax, which was punitive on airlines such as ours, because the Middle East airlines only paid half the tax because they went to Dubai, while we had to pay the whole whack, 12 hours, so we pulled out. But we'll be back. I think by July, we will return to the UK, Azran and the team.
This year?
Yep, this year. No, July's
Next
past.
year. Next year.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Yeah, you're thinking
Okay.
about, you're thinking about
2014?
I'm pretty sure. It hasn't been announced yet. Well, I might as well announce it now. In the WIEF, that we're returning to London.
Okay.
The management don't know that yet. No, they sent me a text. I've been pushing them hard. We got to come back to London. It's important. It's important for many reasons.
And how will you do it differently this time, so that you don't feel after a year or two, oh my gosh, no, we got to pull out?
Well, I think one, the airline has matured. AirAsia X was still new. It's got a bigger spread. It's got a massive sugar daddy in AirAsia. So people who are flying from London to KL have a huge hub to now fly to Phuket, to Bandung, to anywhere. And so it's a different type of airline now. Very soon, we've persuaded Airbus to build us the right type of plane. The plane we have has got 4 engines, and anything that's more than 2 in the airline business is very expensive. So in 2016, we have a brand new A330 coming out, which will be able to do that journey much more economically. So we'll start off with our 340s, and then we'll go to the 330.
So when you've had setbacks in the last few years, Malaysian Airlines debacle, the ANA in Japan, having to pull out of London and Paris, how do you pick yourself up? How do you reflect on it and move on? Talk us through the process.
Life is, I think the great thing about AirAsia is we have no ego. If we make a mistake, we say, we screwed up. And that's the best thing about us, and that's the best thing about business, because some business leaders spend too long worrying about their ego and taking too long to stand up and say, I made a mistake. We've got no issue. We'll stand up, we'll correct it, and we'll come back and fight another day. You cannot go into business or anything and not expect to make mistakes. We want people to take risks. We want people to try. We don't want them to fail all the time. But if you don't create that environment that you can't try and take risk, then you'll never also go to Bandung and all these other things that we did.
Anyone want to ask Tony a question about that? Dealing with setbacks, taking risks, picking yourself up when you've fallen on the floor, all that stuff?
10-3, Ian Buchanan. I'm here as part of the WIEF IAP, but I'm the former Asia Pacific chairman of Booz Allen Hamilton, so we're responsible to a degree for Azran. I hope he's doing very well for you. My question is going to be about future picking yourself up, about emerging risks. I spent 40 years in the Asia Pacific, so I've got the cards, I've got the SIA Solitaire Life, so I know what the front end's like.
We all make mistakes in life.
I understand that. So since you start to say, you know, anyone can fly, I've been flying AirAsia whenever I'm within the region. Service is great, price is great. So the question, 2 threats. Number one, what I'm seeing is your competitors beginning to fiercely recompete. I'm seeing SIA, Scoot, Silkair, cutting prices and maintaining service levels pretty well. And therefore I see a threat coming from that end, but also from yourself, because simplicity has allowed you to achieve this everyone can fly. Now that I fly with you so much, my secretary often gets me the red carpet with you. I see an incredible amount of complexity creeping into the system, okay? So that's one threat, lack of differentiation. Second threat, because everyone can fly and not everyone can build airports quickly, I see more projected purchases of aircrafts and people than I see landing spots. So are you facing a nutcracker And you can imagine how painful it is to have parts of the male anatomy in the nutcracker. If you fall down, it'll be painful. What are you going to do about that?
Okay.
Thank you, Ian.
I think the man next to you is cringing at my reply. I think you work for Malaysian airports as well, which you've screwed up completely. Okay. I mean, two very good questions. One, I'll take the easier one first, airports. There's no doubt that we have created more demand than supply in terms of airport infrastructure. But Asia is very good at building. And there will be a little bit of a lag. But I already see, Indonesia's building lots of airports. We're building a terminal in Malaysia that's the biggest in the world, but it's been delayed for 3 years and cost 3 times more. But it will get there, and we will be able to use it. So, and Malaysian airports are building terminals in KK, etc. So airports are rising to the challenge. Governments are seeing now economic development. Thailand just reopened Don Muang, which is something we pushed. Indonesia is looking at 3 new airports. But there will be a lag. There's no doubt about it. But in terms of AirAsia, we've not just focused on primary cities, we've developed lots of secondary cities. Lots of hubs that no one ever thought could be hubs. In terms of your first question, competitor airlines, we're street kids. We've had to compete from day one. We competed against a national airline that was subsidized. So we're used to competition. And, every week there's a new airline named after an animal. There's lions, there's tigers. In Malaysia, we have one named after an insect called firefly. So not a good choice of name, by the way, because firefly is the shortest living insect in the insect kingdom.
And what about the nutcracker point?
No, I've answered the nutcracker.
You reckon?
That airports will be built.
Okay.
So competition will come, competition will go. The key is, in your second part of your question, lowest cost will win, and simplicity will win. Red carpet and anything else we're given is democracy. Some people want to pay a bit more for food. Some people want to pay a bit more to board the plane early. As long as we liquidate that cost and we're not complicating the operation, we'll do it. So everything is by choice in AirAsia. If you want food, you pay for it. If you want to bring extra bags, you pay for it. Because what people don't realize, the more bags you bring, the heavier the plane is, we burn more fuel. Plus, we have to hire more people to carry those bags. So the person who brings no bags is subsidizing the guy who brings lots of bags on a legacy carrier. So anything that's discretionary, we will charge, as long as it isn't complicated. So going to the bathroom at 36,000 feet, I know Michael O'Leary is looking at it, but for us, we wouldn't charge you because you have no option at 36,000 feet. Ryanair may, but Michael is a special type of human being who makes his own rules.
Tony, we've got another question over here before you get yourself into hot water with Michael O'Leary.
Pakistan. Listening to you in this 10-15 minutes, it shows that you have a very hard work and intelligent move. But then you said it is a luck. So how much you wait for luck, then hard working and smart move?
Okay.
And then another question. While during your moves, there are failure maybe in this business or other business, then what is your strategy when you see some failure, whether you go to that business again in a more aggressive way or you just leave it?
Good questions. Thank you.
I'll answer the second one. I own a football club that got relegated, so that's fairly big failure. But we've just gone back and said we were wrong. This is what we need to do right. We've hired the right people. We've been more aggressive. And so far, we're doing okay, so far. So to answer your question, we don't give up. But there comes a point where you have to say, this ain't going to work, give up. So we're not crazy enough to carry on doing it. In terms of your first question, let me tell you, to everyone who's starting a business, there is no substitute for hard work. There are no shortcuts. Too many people in Asia look for the shortcut, the connection, the this, the easy deal, whatever. There is no shortcut. And there is always an element of luck, but hard work still is the most important thing. There is no substitute for that. but you
Another
need luck.
question here, Tony.
Evelyn Mungai from Kenya, member of the IP panel. Listening to you is very inspiring for entrepreneurs everywhere. You speak in the right language, making mistakes and lifting yourself up once you do. Now, my question or comment is, you mentioned something about animals. I come from wildlife country. We've got lots of those. We've got lions, we've got cheetahs. So there'll be no shortage of what you can name your airline.
Cheetah Air, I haven't heard that one.
Absolutely. Fly very quickly. Yeah. Now, my question is, have you ever thought in terms of coming to Kenya or coming to Africa? There's a very good market out there. We did have Virgin. They came to compete with British Airways. But I think they did the same thing as British Airways in terms of charging prices. So now, after 2 or 3 years, they got out of Kenya. Would love to have your airline, particularly listening to you today about what you've done, and also hearing from my fellow AP members. They'll be talking about Tony Fernandes, ever since I can remember when I come to Malaysia. So it was very inspiring for me to listen to you. But I would love you to come to Kenya. We've got only one national airline owned by the government.
May I have the phone?
Okay.
The
and
mic
we
back.
need
Sorry.
to compete with them and to give people the price.
Okay.
There are loads of questions coming. They want you in Kenya.
Yeah, we're definitely going to come to Kenya. My team was there 2 weeks ago, and we'd love to connect Asia with Africa. We think Kenya is the right place, but many people from China and Australia, etc., want to come to Kenya. So my team was actually there 2 weeks ago. And you have a fantastic national carrier, by the way, as well. They're very well run.
Thank you. Another question.
Tony,
or two.
Gareth Hamer from Ecotech, a telecoms company. You've talked about airlines. You've talked a little bit about football. Don't want you to talk about telecoms. It's boring. But can you tell me when you're going to put a hard top on one of the Caterham cars?
Yes, I can. That's another one of my dreams. Because I'm never going to sell a Caterham without a roof in Malaysia. The boys are working on it as we speak. We launched the Aero 7 the other day, which is a modernized Caterham 7. And that's the car that we're going to put a roof on. It's too tough to put it on the Caterham 7. But we are still trying. We'll put a soft top on it. But on the Aero 7 project, which will be refined down more to the Caterham 7, there will be a roof and a door.
Did everyone understand that question and the answer? No. Yeah, can we just go back, rewind for a second?
I have a small car company, and the car that's being referred to is the Caterham 7, which is a open-wheeled, very quick sports car, which has no roof on it. So I'm desperately trying to put a roof on it because I'm not going to sell it in Asia without a roof. So very soon. They tell me 6 months.
Okay, and why is somebody who's got all these expansion plans with AirAsia going on, juggling, getting involved in this car company here in the UK? Kind of small.
Yeah, well, AirAsia was small, and you got to start small. You live one life, so you might as well try to make the most of it. My job's AirAsia, but that doesn't stop me from investing in great brands. I'm a brand builder. Caterham is a fantastic brand, but is only known in a small part of the world. And so I'm going to try and make it a bit bigger. It's a fantastic British product, amazing engineering. And my job is to try and get more people to know about this fantastic British product. And hopefully we'll succeed.
Okay, we have another question.
Mushtaq Parker. Assuming that you have a fleet expansion plan and you talked about this new Airbus which you are ordering, does that also imply that you are thinking of diversifying your fundraising sort of strategy? I know Emirates Airlines and Malaysian Airlines have recently resorted to raising finance through issuance of sukuk, for instance.
Oh, we were way ahead of them. We did a sukuk 8 years ago.
Are you planning?
Yeah, we continue. We do it all the time. So we've used Labuan, and we do many sukuks.
And I think we have a question at the far end of it there. Do you want to get your mic? Oh, please go for it, sir.
Iskandar, Malaysia. Sir Tony Fernandes, I would like to ask Before you go over to Kenya, please come back to Iskandar, Malaysia, Johor Bahru. Right?
Yeah, we're back. We're there.
As the southern based.
Yeah, unless Iskandar has an airport as well. We're flying to Sinai.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
My question is this. This is regarding management, organizational structure. I noticed that you actually practice a very flattish management style as opposed to hierarchical style. Has that actually helped you to expand as fast as you could and where you are now?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Now, that may not apply to everyone in this room, but we're very different from Iskandar for a start, which is very hierarchical. But that may work for Iskandar. So it just depends on the organization that you're in. But in our case, by doing things unconventionally, by having a more Harvard Business School called AirAsia a statocratic organization, that's in between anarchy and autocratic, which
What's
sounds
that word
fairly
again? What's that word again?
statocratic.
Statocratic.
Yeah, which sounds very scary actually. It's like a Nightmare of Elm Street Part 3. But I think the freeness helped an organization like ours grow quickly. It worked for us. Definitely we grew quicker because of it, because I think it allowed us to be unconventional.
And we have another question in the front row.
Tony, thank you very much. The name is Ibrahim Patel. I'm the chair of the WIF Young Leaders Network. They say if you want to take $1 billion and turn it into $1 million, buy an airline. In a competitive environment where you are succeeding, what kind of advice would you give to aspirant young entrepreneurs like myself and others that might be in this room? How do we become the Tony Fernandes of the next century?
Wow, I don't know if you want to be, but assuming you do, number one, have a business that people want. The second thing is surround yourself with good people, right? Don't take any advice from anyone else. Follow your heart. Number three, don't be afraid of failure. Number four is invest in branding and marketing. There are too many great products that no one ever hears of because everyone spends all the money on the product and they forget about telling people about it. Now, at AirAsia, we were very brave. We went out with 7 planes. We went and sponsored Manchester United. We were a little tiny business and we sponsored, the biggest football club probably in the world. Very painful for me because I hate Manchester United. But we all have to be prostitutes once in a while. But that suddenly built our brand. When we first started, people thought we'd sit next to a chicken, it's not safe, etc. As soon as we were at Manchester United, people were like, wow, that must be a serious airline.
How important is social media?
Oh, critical. I think
you're a bit of a
now.
Twitter addict, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I'm a Twitterholic, actually. I think social media is crucial. So all those elements, I think, don't forget branding and marketing and push the envelope. When we went to sponsor the referees and we were against Emirates, and Emirates had like $1 gazillion more than us. And so I did a speech at the Premier League and I said, look, you've got to sponsor us because we've been watching football for the last 50 years in Malaysia. And there's like one person in Dubai who watches football. But that made no difference. I then said, you've got to support us because Malaysia has been fixing your games for the last 20 years. All the bookies come from us. And that didn't make too much difference. And then I said, can I sponsor the red card? And they went, what do you mean? I said, I want to put AirAsia.com on the red card. And I said, because when Wayne Rooney gets sent off, that picture is everywhere in the world. And on the other side, it'll say, now you're suspended, have a holiday with AirAsia. So we had 3 years of fantastic sponsorship with the referees, so push the envelope. I think as an entrepreneur, great ideas come, but in this world of so much noise and so much that an adult or a kid attention span, there's so many things to grab the attention span. Marketing is so critical, and many young entrepreneurs fail because they don't put enough budget behind branding and marketing.
Is that why you did The Apprentice? Because it's a kind of gift of publicity for
AirAsia. Yeah, I didn't want to do it because I didn't think I was like Alan Sugar or Donald Trump. For many years, I turned it down. But then they said you can just be how you want to be. It was an amazing branding episode for AirAsia. And in fact, my marketing team forced me to do it. but it was fantastic for the brand, without a doubt.
What did it teach you about young kids in Asia?
Fantastic question. What I found is I never thought I'd see it. We had 12 kids in the room who were willing to kill each other. Now, us Asians are very nice people, right? It's not like in England or in America where it's dog eat dog. Here, you know, but really, I saw really smart kids really going out there to win. And they were pretended to be nice to each other, but they were going to win. And that gave me tremendous encouragement for the future of Asia, that we had kids who were going to go out there and win at all costs, step out, and a lot of them gave up fantastic jobs, delayed their marriages, etc. It gave me tremendous confidence in the future of Asia, that we had such diversity in our part of the world.
And that's a tremendous note on which to conclude this face-to-face with Tan Sri, Tony Fernandes. Let's put our hands together and say thank you.
Thank you.
That's really good.
Thanks.
Hope you enjoyed it, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very
and I'm
much.
going to hand over to Mariam now for the closing ceremony.